of senior counsel in the country. Among the 24 that were conferred this badge is Kalonzo Musyoka and Karua. Now, Uhuru honored 24 lawyers after ignoring LSK decision that had cancelled their conferments.
Former Vice President and Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka, former Director of Public Prosecutions Philip Murgor, na Kenya Party leader Martha Karua now joins a list of more than 25 lawyers in the country who have earned the status of senior counsel since the inception of the status in 2003. In a statement, the president conferred 24 advocates to the rank of the senior counsel in accordance with the recommendations of the Committee on Senior Counsel for having distinguished themselves by rendering exemplary service in the legal and public services arenas. Other advocates include Charles Waweru Gatonye, Rauta Adhiambo, Frederick Ngatia, Mohamed Nyaoga, Kioko Kilokumi, Dorcas Agik Odhong Odwor, Abdikadir Hussein Mohamed, and Polo Tiende Amolo. Since the inception of the senior counsel status in 2003, only 26 advocates out of 16,000 lawyers admitted to the bar have achieved the status every lawyer yearns to achieve. According to the Law Society of Kenya, one must have a minimum of 15 years experience as an advocate, high integrity, and unquestionable professional conduct to be vetted for the senior counsel status. One must also have contributed to the development of the legal profession through scholarly writings and presentations within the legal profession. In 2019 alone, about 20 lawyers had applied to join the senior counsel status. Ben Chumba, reporting for Channel 1 News.
Away from that, let's come to rather a sad story. This is in regard to the thespian Papa Shirandula, who passed away over the weekend. The header just reading, Papa Shirandula's abrupt exit from the stage breaks hearts, and this is the hearts of many thespians, in which he leaves a rich legacy. Now, it just says the final journey of Charles Bukeko, popularly known as Papa, was scripted to break the hearts of those who held him dear. Bukeko died on Saturday morning in Nairobi Hospital, a few days after he tested positive for the virus. A few minutes past 3 p.m. on Sunday, the tightly sealed casket bearing his body left the funeral home in Nairobi, where he was buried yesterday. So this is just a story of the fallen thespian, leaving a rich legacy for those who looked up to him. He has mentored so many, and there was also a story where his widow said that it was due to negligence that he passed away. Also, away from that, now coming to the courts this morning, trying to look at what is happening on our courts, on the corridors of justice. Just on the sidebar, fight for land back in court, and where a protracted land dispute at the Jomvu Mission Methodist Church in Mombasa has now returned to court after some villagers opposed the ongoing subdivision of the 151-acre parcel that they occupy. Solomon Somo and 120 other settlers have obtained a court order stopping the Methodist Church Board of Trustees from subdividing, allocating and alienating plot number 162, which has been mentioned there at the Jomvu Mission. So this is just what is happening in Mombasa County. People fighting for their land back, not wanting the church to take that land. We hope that justice is going to be served for the residents in that particular area.
Now, still keeping up wages from corridors of justice and search for justice is just counting the cost is at mass graves and body bags as counties plan for huge rise in deaths. Now, in Kakamega, officials have set aside land for mass graves, while KEMSA is considering buying special body bags. For someone who is an optimist, I say God forbid, but with the current trajectory right now with 234 fatalities already recorded, this indeed is a worrying trend. For instance, in Kisii County, officials from the National Multi-Agency COVID-19 Command Center have been conducting a visit to various hospitals to just try and monitor, the state of preparedness of that particular county. Just in a brief is that so far, the country has reported 3,720 coronavirus deaths. That is in regard to South Africa. And with the way, what the Ministry of Health has been saying, that Kenya might just reach its peak either late August or early September. Reporter Edward Kabasa compiled a report just looking at the domino effect of COVID-19 as we continue counting the cost of this pandemic that has taken the globe by storm.
On Friday, March 13, 2020, 3 months after China reported an outbreak of the novel coronavirus, Kenya announced its first case. At the time, the Ministry of Health said it was a Kenyan citizen who had traveled to Nairobi on Thursday, March 5, 2020, from the United States of America via London.
The case was confirmed on the 12th, which was last night, as the first one to be reported in Kenya since the beginning of the outbreak in China.
2 days after the first confirmed case in the country, President Uhuru Kenyatta announced 2 more people had tested positive for COVID-19.
The 2 have tested positive as a result of coming into contact with the first patient.
Over the next 2 weeks, the cases grew from single to double and triple digits, with the government announcing containment measures to stem the spread of the virus that was now at the community level. In the aftermath, companies and organizations were forced to make painful decisions in a bid to cope with the new normal. These decisions included lean shifts, unpaid leave for some employees, and in some instances, pay cuts. The MP Shah Hospital was among the few private hospitals that effected staff pay cuts, citing loss of revenue due to the decline in the number of patients seeking treatment in its facilities.
One of the austerity measures that we took was we significantly reduced our marketing expenditure, and we thought that it's important that we reduce certain expenses. We froze new recruitments. We also did not engage too much overtime, locum doctors, locum nurses, and we went into digital platforms to be able to communicate our information to all the patients. And also a very painful decision was made by the management of pay cuts.
This decision was, however, challenged in court by the Kenya National Union of Nurses, which argued that MP Shah Hospital was dishonest and using COVID-19 as a scapegoat.
The purported COVID-19 effect on a private hospital has been superficial. It has not been backed by any statistical evidence that actually COVID-19 has led to a reduced number of patients in the private hospitals. According to the information we have, is that private hospitals have continued to function the full capacity, and there has been no significant change in terms of the number of patients who have been visiting private hospitals.
The Kenya Medical Practitioners, Dentists and Pharmacists Union, however, admits some doctors, especially those in private practice, have had to contend with few patients in their clinics.
We've had some instances of job losses, especially those who are running satellite clinics of the big private facilities. They had to stop working because then the facilities were initially closed, so that was quite an economic impact on the doctors, and some had actually to stay home. Because there wasn't work, because that's what they do primarily.
MP Shah Hospital Chief Executive Officer Tosif Din says in April and May 2020, the number of patients seeking treatment in the facility significantly reduced.
We have lifted the pay cuts now because our numbers have improved between May and June, and we hope that the numbers keep on increasing. But at the same time, I don't wish, of course, patients to fall sick, but they are difficult decisions that we had to make over the last few weeks. And no one likes to get a pay cut. Everyone has financial commitments.
Unlike their private counterparts, public health facilities receive regular budgetary allocations from the government. Thus, they are required to optimally dispense medical services to the citizenry, even at this time when many are shying away from the facilities. Dr. Felix Kabugi, who runs a pharmacy at the heart of the Nairobi Central Business District, observes demand for over-the-counter drugs has remained constant.
For us, I know we have been expecting to see an increase in the number of people who are requesting for maybe flu medication, cold medication, cough. It hasn't been that way yet. Maybe it will come, I don't know. But for now, I can comfortably say that the trend hasn't changed for us.
The financial effects of COVID-19 notwithstanding, there is consensus the safety and well-being of healthcare workers remains paramount. As of mid-July 2020, Kenya had lost 3 medical practitioners, a doctor and 2 nurses to the pandemic, highlighting the vulnerability of those working in the front line to save lives.
If private sector do not come up with a mechanism to cushion health workers, it has eaten into their purchasing power. Because now if you're using 100 shillings to come and work, it means you're going to use 200 per day. If you're using 200 per day, to double to 400. Those are the dynamics, I think, in the private sector, they have not been tackled. In the public sector, we fought and the president agreed to bring the issue of a COVID-19 frontline healthcare workers welfare package. That package was to be on for a period of 3 months. I think most of the counties have not paid, but a few have started paying. Money has been released, and I expect that all counties should be able to pay that money.
With coronavirus cases now in their thousands and more healthcare workers becoming susceptible to infection, the challenge is on the country to prove it can flatten the curve and defeat the deadly virus. For Channel 1 News, I am Edward Kabasa.
While still keeping up with COVID-19, remember that there was that story on the front page of the Standard this morning, just when we were looking at what was happening on the front pages of our papers this morning. And the question that was being asked is that where have the COVID-19 billions gone? Even as the government says that they have already given out the money, but it looks like counties and county bosses are saying that there is no money yet. So the caption just reading, where have the COVID-19 billions gone? Lack of accountability, corruption, and theft of the much-needed personal protective equipment, or if you may, PPE, may be the biggest stumbling block in the country's fight against COVID-19. This, coupled with inaction by the county governments outside the cities of Mombasa and Nairobi in executing the simplest of requirements by the coronavirus task force, continue to expose many to disease that is projected to infect more than 41 million Kenyans by 2021. Kenyans today find themselves between a rock and a hard place. On one hand, the pandemic is spreading through the nation at rates never seen, and with all of this that is happening, almost 300 billion from public coffers and donors has already been spent on COVID-19. On the ground, though, there is little to show for this billion. So that is why the question is, where have the COVID-19 billions gone to? When money from donors has come in, money from the government has come in, the government is saying that it has disbursed this money to counties, but the counties are still saying that they haven't. County bosses, yesterday we looked on the papers where they were saying that they haven't received this money yet, which is now putting the healthcare workers at risk when you actually look at this particular issue. Now, still again on matters COVID, keep off corona cases. Private facilities are now told, this is just on the side of the paper, where Mandera County has banned private medical facilities from handling patients with COVID-19 symptoms. This is happening in Mandera. Instead, the county secretary Abdinur Hussein said the patients should be referred to Mandera Teaching and Referral Hospital, which is a government hospital where they are trained, where there are trained personnel to handle them. The question is just them saying that those in private institutions are not that well trained to handle COVID-19 patients. So the private hospitals that will handle patients confirmed to have been COVID positive will be closed down and their licenses will be withdrawn. That is what he warned, just saying that COVID-19 patients need to be handled in the Mandera Teaching and Referral Hospital and not in the private institutions. Now, even as we talk about matters COVID-19, there's been questions concerning the drugs, vaccines, and whatnot, what needs to be done, what doesn't need to be done. Now, it just looks that virus drug to sell at 6,000. This is the COVID-19 virus drug, and Cipla, which is a global pharmaceutical firm with a footprint in Kenya, is expected to roll out remdesivir, one of the drugs registered as a remedy for COVID-19. So that the drug that I just mentioned is one of the drugs that is registered as a remedy for COVID-19. This drug is expected to be shipped into the Kenyan market following a deal between Gilead Sciences Inc., who developed it, and 9 other pharmaceutical firms, Cipla being one of them. Now, this deal will see the drug introduced in 127 countries globally, and Kenya being one of them. But even as we look at the drugs and vaccines that are being said to be remedies of COVID-19, we still continue to insist and urge Kenyans to keep safe, continuing to follow all the right procedures and protocols that have been issued by the Ministry of Health as well as just by the government. Now, let us look at traders and how they're being affected, given the fact that things are slow, business are slowly, we are living in such difficult times. And this is just a story of traders in Busia County. It's a dark time for traders who targeted universities. Remember that now schools are closed, both primary, secondaries, even as well as universities. So now businesses have been devastated by the closure of universities. At the heart of Maseno Township, along the Kisumu-Busia Road in Maseno University, which hosts at least 20,000 students who make the area vibrant. We also have the image of the university there. But after closure of university, the area that used to bustle with activity is slowly turning into a ghost town as traders feel the heat of the outbreak, of the COVID-19 outbreak. About 2 years ago, an inventor put up a multi-million shilling shopping mall near the university, targeting students and the local community there. But today, business is slow with only a handful of customers trickling in, just showing us of how business is slow in that specific area. This is next to Maseno Universities, and this is again due to the adverse effects of COVID-19, just seeing how this specific disease has affected different businesses, different sectors here in the country, as well as even beyond our country, that is Kenya. But again, also, there's still a report that shows that some Kenyans are still denying that coronavirus exists, and that just begs the question of, has enough awareness been created in a time when we are really seeing cases and numbers rising day in, day out? But for those Kenyans that believe and feel like COVID-19 does not exist, well, it actually does, and we are seeing of how many lives it has taken so far, and just, you know, the kind of effects that that are as a result of COVID-19. Let us look at something a bit different, and this is again seeing of how gender-based violence cases have risen, domestic violence cases have risen. Now, in regards to this, and just try and see how best they can curb this issue in different parts of the country, new units to protect children, that is the caption we have there, just on the side again, on the sidebar of the paper, where police in Homa Bay County have now established an office to address the rising cases of physical and sexual abuse among children in the county. The Child Protection Unit, CPU, was opened yesterday by Nyanza Regional Police Commissioner, that is Noah Muivada. He was accompanied by Homa Bay County Police Commander, that is Esther Sirune, and her Kisii counterpart, Jebel Munene. The CPU will be based in a new building at the Homa Bay Police Station. It will be used to temporarily accommodate abused minors for a few days before they can be moved to the Children's Rescue Center. That is what is happening in different parts of the country in terms of just ensuring that at least they help protect our children, given the fact that the issue of gender-based violence, domestic violence has risen. Let's just get a report, a report from a reporter, that is Eden, who compiled a story on what has been happening in different parts of the country, in different counties, as far as matters COVID-19 is concerned. Take a look.
Speaking during the commencement of the construction of dikes in flood-prone areas of Kochia, Homa Bay County, the Chief Administrative Secretary in the Ministry of Water and Irrigation, Andrew Timur, said the project will also see the locals access clean water. The multi-billion irrigation scheme, which covers the vast Karachuonyo and Kochia regions in Homa Bay County, will take 6 months to complete.
The only way to help with the food distribution is to construct dikes that is going to make sure that water does not flow into the villages, so that it does not overflow its banks.
This project is going to cost up to 100 million shillings. Already the first part had been done, the designs and so on, but this year we've put another 40 million shillings so that we complete it before the end of December.
In another development, Migori Governor Okoth Obado has called on the national government to consider expanding Gogo Falls along River Kuja as a flood mitigation approach.
A lot of that water will be stored in that dam and only get released to run that power station. And even that power station, there are plans to expand it.
Residents of Jomvu Ku area, Jomvu constituency in Mombasa County held peaceful demonstration to protest what they claimed as land accusation by non-locals.
Hasa sisi kwa jumla tunataka serikali kuu iangalie kwa urefu sana jambo hili.
In Uasin Gishu County, 3 key robbery with violence suspects have been arrested by DCI officers at Lagas Estate in Eldoret Town.
These are 2 gentlemen and a lady. The lady is a wife to one of the suspects, and they've been connected to a series of robberies and burglaries. One of the gentlemen is alleged to have even raped a victim in the course of a robbery.
Ni vijana wadogo sana, so tunaomba serikali yetu iweze kufuata njia mzuri ya kuwashika.
In Mandera County, a section of Muslim clerics are advocating for masla, a traditional dispute resolution method where 100 camels are paid for killing a person. The clerics claim the move will curb crime in the region as the penalty is too grievous to bear and also serve to unite the disputing parties.
Hiyo ni muhimu sana na tunaunga mkono kama sisi na wazee. Hiyo nidhamu ni mzuri sana kwa sababu hii tukichukua tunaamini kwamba inakomisha mambo ya conflict.
And away from matters counties and how counties are prepared to deal with COVID-19, let's move to business and look at what has been making headlines when it comes to matters business on our papers this morning. Still keeping up with the standard, I&M buys 90% stake in Ugandan lender, that is I&M Bank, where I&M Holdings has announced the acquisition of Uganda's Orient Bank Limited. In an announcement to shareholders yesterday, I&M board said an agreement had been reached to acquire a 90% stake in the Ugandan lender on July 17th, subject to regulatory approval. So it looks like banks just buying off others, at least to help to survive in the market. But still looking at matters business and survival of different sectors here in the country. Remember the Tuskys story? Tuskys just going down. Some of the shops have closed. Some employees have had to lose their jobs. So just wanted to take a look at a story of what is happening on Tuskys, and this is in regards to the Tuskys suppliers. Our report was compiled by our reporter Kip Toom. Take a look at what is happening on matters Tuskys and how they are holding up.
Investigations by the Competition Authority of Kenya into abuse of buyer power incidences in the retail sector, focusing on 25 mid and large retailers, commenced in April this year. In a preliminary report, CAK noted that 4 retailers had delayed payments to local suppliers for a period exceeding 90 days. In a statement, the authority said 3 of the 4 retailers presented payment plans, which are being honored as agreed, thereby progressively reducing their debt portfolio, as confirmed through compliance checks. Tusky's supermarket, on the other hand, was given orders requiring it to submit records revealing the full extent of debt owed, financial statements and records, sales forecasts, among others. The statement says, over the past 30 days, the authority has held 4 meetings with Tusky's to review the documentation submitted and interrogate its proposed debt settlement plan. Tusky's provided documents indicating that it made payments to suppliers amounting to 2.77 billion shillings in June 2020 as per the authority's order. Tusky's is said to have presented a payment plan that will result in all suppliers' outstanding invoices progressively settled over a period of 4 months. To ensure adherence to the presented debt settlement plan, CAK has committed to be conducting compliance checks on a weekly basis. The regulator is also calling on suppliers facing delayed payments to file such information for appropriate action. Betty Kiptum, Channel 1 Business.
And away from what Tusky suppliers are planning to do, given the fact that a number of shops have closed and a number of employees have also had to lose their jobs. But now coming to a different story, still again on matters business. This is in regards to the public debt here in the country and where we stand in terms of debt. Public debt hits 6.6 trillion Kenyan shillings. That is the header we are having this morning in regards to this specific story, where Kenya's public debt increased by 212.82 billion in May from the previous month, owing to the loans extended to the government by multilateral lenders to cushion the country against shocks from the global coronavirus pandemic. So the Central Bank of Kenya data showed total government debt, which actually stood at 6.649 trillion Kenyan shillings at end of May, composed of 3.496 trillion external debt and 3.153 trillion in domestic borrowing. So that is where we stand in terms of debt here as a country. But just slightly away from the debt, matters to do with debt here in the country, let's look at a bit of a different story. Still again on matters business, where KPA, this is now the Kenya Ports Authority, 6 top lawyers to handle multi-billion suits. That is the caption we are having there. And the Kenya Ports Authority is now recruiting 20 law firms with sound financial muscle, insurance cover, and experience to handle its multi-billion legal suit. So that is what KPA is now planning to do. And however, the conditions set to pre-qualify the entities to offer legal services have sparked bitter court dispute between, this is now between the small law firms and established ones. So it has caused a bit of controversy there in regards to how they're planning to do this. But the KPA's advocate, John Kinyanjui, however, said the magnitude of legal services KPA outsources from pre-qualified lawyers often run into billions of shillings, hence requiring experienced firms. So the question in hand is that they are requiring experienced firms. That is why they're seeking top lawyers to handle multi-billion suits. So that is what is happening at the Kenya Ports Authorities. But I just want us to have a look on what our reporter also prepared. This in regards to small and medium enterprises firms. Remember that the COVID-19 has affected different sectors. We've kept mentioning that time and again, and we have seen especially the small enterprises, medium enterprises, even being the one heavily hit by the adverse effects of COVID-19. We have a report by our reporter Rioba who prepared the SMEs stimulus and how they are dealing with it and what is actually being done to help protect the small and medium enterprise firms as of now.
A report by the Kenya Association of Manufacturers and Auditing Firm KPMG indicates that 7% of SMEs have scaled down their production since the first case of COVID-19 was reported in Kenya. This is due to cash flow constraints as the economy is grappling with reduced business activities as a result of coronavirus. To stimulate economic activity, the government announced that it will distribute 5 billion shillings under the Credit Guarantee Scheme to struggling startups hit by the adverse effect of COVID-19.
Bilioni 5 tunawaomba sana nyinyi kama wananchi muende kwa hizi benki za kawaida zimekubaliwa kupeana huo mkopo ili muweze wale ambao waliathirika na biashara zao zikafungwa waweze kuziamsha.
Karanja says small businesses engage in production of personal protective gear to help contain the spread of COVID-19 pandemic will be prioritized in distribution of the funds. In addition, some of the small businesses will be offered a market for their products by the government.
Mheshimiwa Rais aliamrisha Kenya Medical Supply Agency kuwa ama aliwapea county idhini ya kununua PPEs directly from the suppliers without going through Kenya Medical Supply Agency.
Benson Rioba reporting for Channel 1 Business.
Well, that's that, and that is where we bring to our close segment in the headlines this morning. Remember that we sampled for you some of the stories that have been well highlighted in our papers, inclusive of the Daily Nation, the Standard, as well as the Star. We want to take a very short break, but we'll be back with more, including the day's conversation. So stay with us. We take that break. This is Good Morning Kenya. Keep watching.
This Tuesday on KBC Channel 1.
When will you take this seriously? This is exactly what got Richard killed.
You are my first and only love.
That man hit me! Take him away!
No, do anything. You can't take him, madam. Stop this.
Don't, officer. You can't listen to my grandmother, please. She's lying to you.
I learned enough to understand that you're never going to leave her.
I do all the hard work, and the man gets the credit.
Sorry, the decision has already been made. In love with Ramon.
Embakasi Utawala tuko locked. Ungem Utanyahururu Kasuku Massive.
Jeshi ya Nyeri Maua Nakuru ko locked mbaya.
Kigumo Ward na ambao wote wako ndani ya KBC Channel 1.
Akulaliki Wednesday bila the rev.
Mbotela Auta Idara Kitengela.
Kiambu County 33 Pipeline Meru anawakilisha.
Rongai Maboksa pale go down. Karatina Auta Mlolongo wana enjoy show. Lare Sub County Auta Githurai 45. Lanet Barracks tuko ndani yake. Okongo Auta Carnation Maragwa Seti
Nairobi.
Thika wako locked mbaya sana.
Watu wangu wa Nakuru Ngwaro.
Auta Gilgil. Live kutoka Mazeras Bahati Massive.
Embo Thika Massive.
Siaya Shikambi Kakamega Bungoma County.
Kusia Boda
Kisumu City.
Malindi yote iko ndani ya the rev.
When I'm in Kenya, I tune in to the rave. Get your mind brave, focus, conscious.
Kenya,
East Africa.
Right.
Keep it locked.
Calling out to every can.
And a minute to the top of the hour, time for our fast traffic link up this morning. We look at what is happening around Garden City area as well as Survey, given the fact that this are the two areas that we are expecting those footbridges to be installed. But before we look at how traffic is doing, let me just show you the images of this area which I'm talking about. This is Survey area along Thika Super Highway. The Kenya National Highways Authority had been installing 4 footbridges along this highway. This process began in 2018. It is now in 2020, and it was expected to end at least in 2019. That has not been the case, and only one bridge has so far been installed along this highway, and that is the one along with TVA area. The other one was supposed to be at Mangu area, the other one is supposed to be in Garden City, and the other one is supposed to be around Survey area. So these are some of the 4 bridges that had been earmarked by Kenha at least to be installed along this highway. First of all, to reduce on the number of death cases that were being witnessed around along this highway. In terms of bridges, Thika Super Highway has 18 footbridges as of now, and the 4 that I just mentioned were the ones that were expected to be installed. So far, only one has been installed. And the question has been, what has taken this process so long, given the fact that especially around this area, what you're looking at on your screens right now, this is again another image of Survey area, just showing you of how this process has been coming along. It has actually stalled. It was expected to be completed by mid-April and at least open to the public as at that time. This was said in February that it was supposed to take 2 months, so that means it was supposed to be done by mid-April. That hasn't happened, because now we are in July, and this is still how it's looking like. But Kenha, just in the statement that they issued on 10th of July, which is 2 weeks ago, they say that the reason as to why this process has stalled is because, first of all, the funds have not been coming as how it's supposed to, and this is one of the reasons as to why it has stalled. But remember again, Thika Super Highway is one of those busy roads, and in terms of bridges, like I mentioned to you, it is one of those highways that has numerous footbridges, 18 so far, 4 expected, and this is just reduced on the number of death cases as well as ease on the traffic flow. So in as much as, yes, they say that the issue of funds is one that has been stalling this process, we are still expecting at least this installation of these footbridges at least to be done probably by the end of this year, and it to be open to the public. They haven't said anything about the Mangu footbridge, which was again also to be installed, but nothing has been done on that specific area. So let's look at how this process has been impacting traffic, especially in these 2 areas, just starting from Garden City Mall as you head over to the city center. In terms of traffic this early morning, a couple of minutes past 8 a.m., and looks like it's clearly unlike what you'd expect to see, especially in the early morning hour. Traffic only being witnessed on the inner lanes of this 8-lane highway. On the outer lanes, just from what you're seeing on your screens, on our map, clearly moving at a really fast pace, and this is on both lanes. The one as you leave the estates along Thika Super Highway, specifically around Garden City Mall as you head over to the city center, as well as the other outer lane. This is just as you leave the CBD heading all the way to Thika Road, to Garden City, as well as the estates enjoined on this specific road. On these 2 outer lanes, moving at a pretty fast pace, nothing really much to say in terms of heavy traffic. And I said it's highly unlikely because especially in this early morning hour and around this specific area or this specific place, normally what you'd expect to see is heavy traffic, gridlock in some parts, moving at a pretty slow pace, in others in fact just at a standstill, given the fact that it is Thika Road and it's one of those busy roads, and also the fact that around Garden City Mall, quite a number of activities around this specific area, given the fact that it's also a bus terminus where there's drop-off and pick-up. So in terms of traffic, what you're seeing is just the reason as to why I said it is highly unlikely. So what this means is if you are coming from Thika Road around KCA area, just around Garden City, coming to the city center and all these estates around along Thika Road, such as Roysambu, Kasarani, coming all the way to the CBD Mwiki, this clearly could be the best time for you to do that, because there's barely any traffic, just traffic on the inner lanes, but even at that it is really manageable, and that is why we are seeing more of the orange color and not the other colors that we normally spot in terms of red and Maroon, so moving at a pretty fast pace. And also the other reason as to why we would have expected to see traffic is because remember that restriction of movement was already lifted, so that means people are coming also from the outskirts of Nairobi. Nairobi area has been opened up, so people are coming in, some are, are heading out. So again, that could have also been the reason as to why we probably would have expected to see heavy traffic build up. But clearly as of now, there's none of that, moving at a pretty fast pace along this specific road and also around that area. But just coming again with a thicker road, before actually I get to the other area, that has changed this very minute. Just now traffic has changed and you can see the difference in the colors. Now this is just an indicator showing us that traffic is now moving at a pretty slow pace on the inner lanes. Remember that earlier on in the first couple of minutes when we were looking at what was happening on this specific area in terms of traffic, it was just clear ways, and in areas where we were beginning to witness traffic, at least it was moving at a pretty fast pace. But this has changed this very minute. Before I just went to look at on what was happening around survey area, changed this very minute. But also remember that in the next link up segment, I'll be giving you some alternative routes, especially for those that are using Thika Superhighway heading about their businesses in this early morning hour. Traffic Marshal A1 Doreen Arange for bringing up to speed with what is happening on our major roads this morning. Now, last week the president received a report headed by a task force headed by Dr. Frank Njenga on the status of mental health in Kenya. Some of the recommendations of this task force was that mental health be considered a public health, or rather mental illness be made a public issue. Will then this change the trajectory and the statistics that we have in the country? And speaking of mental health and wellness is none other than Anastasia Kingwa, who is a psychologist, who's going to be taking us through this conversation. Anastasia?
Yes, hi.
Great to have you on board, and thank you for your time.
Thank you too.
Now, with that report, I'd want to know, let's start off from that report that was presented by Dr. Frank Njenga to President Uhuru Kenyatta. The recommendations therein is that mental illness be considered an issue of public health. From where you sit,
yes,
is this the right direction to take?
Yes. Thank you very much. I want to thank you for this opportunity. I want to say that that is the way to take the direction of our country. We need to take the direction of embracing mental health as a public health. Why? Because if a mentally health person is able they become productive, their mind, their behavior, and their thinking, they're able to think straight. And therefore, I commend what Dr. Jenga said, that we need to embrace mental health and learn and work with it, because mental health is about being psychologically well, socially well, and emotionally well. And those are things that we need to be able to relate with self, to relate with others, and even to be able to be healthy people in the community. So I commend we embrace mental health, and I commend that discussion. And I will also like to talk to our president to embrace this and bring it on board, because we need men to be mentally healthy.
Okay. Now, Anastasia, from where you sit as a psychologist, we have a misconception. Whenever someone talks about mental health, they think about a mental institution like Mathare, for example, and asylum of sorts. People have this more misconstrued perspective as to what contains, or rather what mental health exactly means. From where you sit, kindly help us understand the issues or the difference between mental wellness, and mental health. Maybe we can be able to understand what means what and what to look out for.
Mental health, it's a state of well-being, whereby it's about the mind. Mental health is about the mind, and mind, it's the window towards our body and our soul. And when we are mentally healthy, we are able to think straight, to focus, and maintain purpose. And also, we have a sense of direction, as opposed to being, the people who go to Madale because mostly the mental health and wellness has been associated to being mad, the psychotic, the schizophrenic. That is a condition and it's part of mental health. But that does not mean that when somebody is mentally unwell, that they are mad. No. When somebody is mentally unwell, it means that they are not able to talk straight. They are not able, their mind, the sense of thinking, the sense of talking, and the sense of behavior has been compromised, especially when you find yourself that you are not consistent in what you're doing and what you're saying. The sense whereby you are productive at your place of work, you're no longer productive, you're not drinking excessively, you are not getting angry too quickly, and today you're getting so worked out, and anger has taken a toll on you. You need to check on that. That one is a red flag that you are about to get mentally unwell. And therefore, I commend that the mental illness, we should not. There is a lot of stigma in our society, a lot of social stigma, that whenever somebody is told to go and see a counselor or he's told to go and do a mental checkup, they think that person is mad. And that is a social stigma that is associated to mental health and health. And that has really not made people not to seek for mental wellness. And therefore, I want to differentiate the two. Mental health and mental health care, it is about your mind, it is about your behavior, and it's about your emotional wellness. But sometimes when it's not treated early, you may get that it explodes, and you may become also psychotic, and that is the time you go to Madare. And therefore, we commend that whenever you see something is not right with you at another stage, please seek help, seek support, and also embrace being mentally well. So when you're mentally ill, it doesn't mean that you're mad. And I want to say this, and I said yesterday, that being mentally well, it is like you're sick. And when you're sick, the mental wellness, it's not about the body, it is about the mind. And the mind is injured at some point. Either it's injured at some point and you're paining at the mind. Unfortunately, our community has not embraced that the way somebody can be sick in the body, the other parts of the body, you can also be sick in the mind. And therefore, we need to understand that the pain of having a wound that is paining, the pain of having an eye that is paining, the physical fitness, what you can see with your eyes, the mind can also be affected by what we are going through, by the environment that we are in, the stress, the anger, and many other things contribute to the same.
Now, Anastasia, let me interject there. You've said it is a state of being, that we need to be a bit careful and be in touch with how our mind, our state of mind is. But a majority of us do not know when our minds are not in the right place. So from where you sit, how then do we help each other, or rather help the general public identify these triggers that could end up, blowing up and escalating, as what you've said, and may lead a person to actually even get psychotic? What are the triggers? What should I look out for?
One of the things that you should look at, you should ask yourself, are you stressed? Is there something that is disturbing you? And this something that is disturbing you, it is something that is disturbing you for quite some time. If you are angry and that anger is escalated, if you have the emotional turbulences whereby you're not able to solve problem, you can be, it's okay to be emotionally unwell, it's okay to be angry, it's okay to be stressed, but if you're not able to come back to normal as usual, a normal person is getting angry and venting out, but then you're able to resolve to the normal state immediately after all that has happened. But if you find that you're not able to come to the normalcy, there are those moments that you feel that it has taken overboard. It's not about you now. You need somebody else to support you. And therefore you find that a behavior that you're doing, like if you're not doing something, like if you're not drinking, and then you find yourself that because of the stress, you want to get comfort out of the drinking, and the drinking continues, it then becomes a habit. That habit, you're not able to come back to normalcy. Remember that one. now you need help because you're mentally unwell. Because whenever your functionality of the brain is not working well, whenever you're no longer functioning well as usual, that is a point whereby you need to seek help. Because if you cannot be able to resolve your issues as normal, if you cannot be able to relate well with people at the place of work, everybody, we have some disagreement, but it's okay to disagree. But if you find that you're not able to resolve your issues, if after some time it gets a toll on you, then you need to understand that something is not right with you. That's a trigger. Maybe after a loss, we are in the time of COVID-19. Many people have lost their loved one at one point. People have lost job, and there are so many losses and grief. People are grieving, and that one has caused a lot of trauma in the lives of people. And therefore, I want to say this. We need to understand that when you are grieving and the grieving process has prolonged, you need now to seek help, because it can again cause something we call post-traumatic stress, or something we call complicated grief. And that one now, it affects your brain functionality. And once your brain function has been affected, remember what I said, that our brain, it is a window that gets into our soul and to our body. And when our brain is not functioning, even our motor body, we are not able to function. Remember, when you have an injury in the brain, and that is the mental illness, when you have an injury in the brain, you're not able to function okay at the normal day and night. Mm-hmm. And therefore, those are the things you need to check on.
Those are
maybe
the triggers.
Somebody sorry?
No, those are the triggers. Now, from where we sit, according to the reports that you're getting, or rather the recent reports that you've received, is that 1 out of every 4 Kenyans is suffering from one form of mental illness or another. Why do you think we have such high numbers currently?
We have one of the things that has caused those high numbers. Number one, there is a lot of stress in the community, like a loss of a job. People are not able to solve. There is economical stress. We are economically stressed. We are socially stressed. Remember, we are in the time of social distance. We no longer network. We are also the economical stress, the social stress. We also have the physical stress, whereby at this time, so many people are not able to get health diet because of the lack of food. The lack of we no longer have the good nutrition as we used to have. We are also emotionally not stable, because when you're stressed, when you don't have money, when you don't know what to do about it, when there is a lot of anxiety, uncertainty in our nation because of like now, let's take for the example, because of the COVID-19, there is a lot of stress, uncertainty, and a lot of anxiety. Why? Because we don't know the outcome of COVID-19, and everyone is wondering then what will happen next. And because of that, people are stressed. And what happens when people are stressed? You're not able to think straight. The functionality of your brain, whenever you're not able to think straight, then that way, when your mind is not working, corresponding with your body, you're equally stressed. And because of the stress, you almost you develop a sense of now depression after so prolonged stress. The stress today, stress tomorrow, a prolonged stress over a month or over years, it can now yield to depression. And when you become depressed, now you're mentally sick. Remember, even when you're stressed, you need to check on your mental wellness. And therefore, because of the stress in the community, especially the economic stress, remember, so many people have been laid off from the place of work. So many people have lost their loved one. So many people we have lost so many. Even the sense of dignity, the sense of status. When you lose a job, you lose the sense of status. Remember, recently we had a problem whereby the people in Gikomba market, they got burned down. You can imagine what is happening. The stories, the media, what we are getting from the media, it's quite frightening, and people get worried. And whenever you get worried about something and you're not able to resolve, that one in itself, it is a stress. It is a stressor. And because of the many stressors in our environment, those so many stressors, they are now causing people to either become suicidal or homicidal. Why do you become suicidal? It is because you are overwhelmed. So many things are happening to you. So many things are happening around you. And the only thing that you need to, you look at, you say, the only thing that I can do, I want to escape from whatever is happening in my environment. And the escape route for so many people, when they don't seek psychological support, well, the escape route becomes now a way of escape, and that is why people commit suicide, because they are running away. It's like somebody's running away from a problem. Some people, they may not commit suicide, but whenever they want to run away from the family problem, they may go to alcohol, and that one, they think it's a place of comfort. Many people you'll hear people saying that I want to forget my problem, but that one, you don't forget the problem, you escalate the problem. Others will go to sexual addiction. Others will go to pornography. The young people, they're going to pornography. It is a sense of comfort. I want to excite myself. I want to seek pleasure. Unfortunately, people are seeking pleasure in the uncomfortable way, and those are destructive way. The comfort that many people are seeking from today, they are escalating a lot of problem because, again, they are causing damage to our society.
Now, from where you sit, Anastasia, is there then a correlation with the current, rise in gender-based violence that can be linked to the, current state of mental health within the country? Is there a correlation?
Yes, I support that. There is that relationship between the gender-based violence that is happening today. Why? Because at the times of crisis, there is a lot of conflict. The conflicts within and the conflicts without. When you're not able to resolve issues within yourself, remember what I said, mental health is it's that state of well-being, the state of being focused and the state of being functional as an individual. If you cannot be able to be held, and if you're not functional, you yourself, from yourself, if you have conflict, and if you already have conflict within yourself, you cannot be able to solve conflict. And therefore, anything that comes your way, it becomes a trigger to what is happening within you. So when you see somebody become a fighter, okay, there are those people who are used to fighting because of their nature, maybe because of their personality, or maybe because of the past experiences or childhood issues that have not been resolved. But at the current, there is a lot of crisis and a lot of conflicts. As I have said, there is a lot of economical crisis. And the economical crisis whereby you're not financially stable. And therefore, any small trigger, so a wife will ask you for milk and bread, also a daily meal for the children. And because you're stressed, you start fighting back. A small thing escalates a conflict. And that one brings along fighting. And that is why we are getting a lot of gender-based violence. Why? Because people are not able to resolve issues at the common level. Because as we have been hearing, the COVID-19 has indeed treated us abnormally. And that one has it's a contributor to a mental illness. It is a contributor to the mental status of our nation. And therefore, we are getting, when somebody is not able to solve a small thing, some will fight, some other people will just get withdrawn and they get isolated. And therefore, because of that, we need to encourage people. Let's speak out. We need to have support system. We need to have structures that can support our society. At the Common Nyumbakumi initiative, we need to have somebody, a mental health worker, a counselor, who is going to bring people together and to create awareness. One of the things I can say, it is that there is no awareness that mental health is a status. It's an illness like any other. We tend to ignore. There is that ignorance. And the ignorance, it's because people are not aware of what is happening.
Now, Anastasia, talking about violence, there's some, especially within the family setup, the issue of emotional violence, the psychological violence. Yes. That is one that has gotten very many people separated within their homes, and divorce cases here and there because people cannot quite quantify. Let's talk about emotional violence and relation to mental well-being. How does one overcome, basically? How does one get back on track where there are no outward signs that you are undergoing such a process?
Very good. Thank you very much. About the mental, the emotional wellness, I want to say that a human being is an emotional being. Why? Because we have feeling. That is why we get angry, we get anxious, we also cry at some point, and we feel the pain, and that pain is the response to the pain. It is seen through our feeling, the way we feel. We have a feeling of sadness, and therefore most of the time we ignore those feelings, and we tend to like put them at the back of our mind. And emotional violence, the emotional abuse, it is quite much in our society. And what I want to say about my emotional health, emotional wellness is whereby you are able to relate with your emotions. You can be able to understand that I am overwhelmed. It is okay to feel sad. But when you're not able to understand that, you can be emotionally abused. And most of the families, they are emotionally abused. One, you'll find that somebody, they may not beat you, but they will give you a cold war. When somebody, like now in a family, when a man comes, or a husband or a wife, they're not talking. And for sometimes they cannot be able to communicate. And the other one is being hurt. You hurt somebody, you cannot even be able to bow and say sorry. You hurt someone, you say you cannot have a dialogue to solve issues. That, in a way, it is an emotional abuse because it escalates emotional pain. And once the emotional abuse, it's not physically seen. Like somebody can insult you. You can imagine the painful words. Somebody insults you. That one interferes with your self-esteem and your dignity and your self-worth. When you insult somebody, when you mention to somebody about their point of weakness, and that one is happening very much in our marriages, whereby you always progress, or you always touch on the weakness of your partner, the weakness of their children. And that one has really hurt many people. Remember, the words that we speak, they are very powerful. They are pointed to our emotional stress, because the words travel far than even the scolding. It's better to even beat somebody because they can see a scar, but a scar that is an emotional scar, it is not visible. Unfortunately, it is more than even a physical scar. Therefore, we need to take care of one another.
Okay. Now, Anastasia,
we need to take care of one another, because when somebody is emotionally hurt.
Okay. Now, hello? Anastasia, other than just within the home setup, there's a question that rather experts have said that immediately you accept that you're not okay is a step in the right direction to getting or rather achieving mental wellness. As we almost come to a close, we'd want to know then, what are the steps? How can I better take care of myself as an individual to achieve mental wellness?
Whenever you're emotionally hurt, these are the steps towards your healing process. Number one, admit, accept that you're not okay. And that is the point. Many people will never accept that we are not okay. Number one, you have to accept. Number two, you must admit that you need help. When you cannot be able to support yourself, when you have your conflict within or conflict with others, you need to understand that you can't help yourself. So seek for a support. Of course, in this age and time, people are feeling, who should I reach out to? Because of the betrayals and the pain, people cannot trust people. Therefore, you need to seek a safe space to be able to talk about your issues. Number three, you also need to understand that exercise, they are also good. Exercises, they are very good. You need to exercise. And also, sometimes when you get angry, also take a walk. And also seek, when you see the emotional hurting and the emotional pain has escalated, seek professional help. We are here as counselors, and we have so many counselors in our nation, and please seek help. When you seek help from a counseling point of view, it does not mean that you are not okay. It means that you need to restructure yourself. You need to reprogram yourself. You need to get more back to your focus, because when you are emotionally hurt, when you are mentally unwell, you lost your focus. Therefore, you need to restructure back and bring back your normal, that you lost it, by seeking help. Also, you need to eat light. Diet, we need to eat balanced diet. Seek for food that can be able to bring you back to normalcy. Also, seek for connect with people, the people who care. most of the time people are stressed and people are in pain because they don't have connectivity. They don't have social structures. You don't have people to talk to. You don't have a support system. Seek for people who can support you. Don't die alone. And it's okay to share. I've always said that being mentally health and mental health care, number one, you need to understand that when you share, that is a point of your processing, your healing. Therefore, don't die in your pain, because when you keep quiet, it doesn't work. And I'm speaking this to all of us, especially the men. Sometimes they inhibit the pain, and sooner or later it becomes a time bomb and it explodes. Please speak out. Speak out. Speaking out, it is not a weakness. It is a strength. It is to understand that you really understand that you are not okay at now. It is not always, you're not okay as at now. And at that point, seek help, talk to someone, encourage, get someone to talk to, open up to someone. Of course, you need to get a safe space whereby you can empty yourself, you can vent out and seek, and you'll get support. And you get supported by having a walk with somebody, a therapeutic walk with somebody. I said even having a walk, it's also therapeutic, and nature walk. You'd also, one of the ways that we have devised is depression can be healed through exercising. You can also exercise and also seek behavior change. If you see that your behavior is not working on well, you need to cognitively structure your brain to be able to change your behavior. And that way, you may not be able to support yourself. You need somebody else to support you. And that is why we have mental health care through counseling professionals and psychologists.
And also knowing that there are these services out there, Kenyans, a majority
yes,
of them have a reservation into opening up and sharing on account of issues of confidentiality. They believe that if I speak to a counselor, my stuff or rather my issues are going to be made public, especially those who are in formal employment. This is something that they really do not want, revealed to their employer that I am seeking counseling, because they're worried about then, the stigma and how the employer is going to take that particular issue. From where you sit, I'd want to just put it here on the platform. How safe are this, how safe is it for one to open up to a professional counselor? Because that's one of the reasons why people are not, seeking professional services in regard to mental wellness.
That is a very good question. I want to say from where I sit, from a mental health professional, counselors, psychologists, we have ethics. We are governed by ethics. And one of the ethics says we should structure. You restructure with a client. After structuring, you also contract confidentiality. So that is one of our ethics. Please be able to trust a counselor, because we observe counselors. Unfortunately, I want to say there are so many lay people who are calling themselves counselors, and they are doing more damage, more harm than good. Therefore, it is good to seek for a professional, because professional, like we have a KCPA, that is a body that governs the counselors in Kenya. Therefore, Kenya Counseling Association, therefore, go and seek people who are professional, because we are governed by ethics. We should not do harm. We should observe confidentiality, and we should always do something that benefits the other person. Therefore, seek for a professional who are governed by ethics. And I want to let you know that it is a safe space to talk to a counselor. It is a safe space because you put into contract that you have contracted. You have that confidentiality. And a counselor who is a professional, they are not going to let go your words. They're not going to let go your weakness. They're not going to betray you, because the ethics governs them. So I want to build the trust of Kenyans. I want to build the trust of everyone, and to let you know that a counselor, a professional counselor, it's somewhere you can go and pour out your issues. It is a safe space, it is a safe environment, and it is a point whereby you can talk about your issues, you explore your issues. And I want to let you know that counseling, it's not about advice giving. Counseling, it is about working with a client and exploring issues together after exploring issues, you also work together. It is a walk and work together progressively. You work together towards a solution that is workable, not for the psychologist, not for the counselor, but that is which is workable for the client, for the benefit of the client. Because we need to put into play, people are different, the personalities are different. We cannot generalize. We take each case as an individual. So we don't take cases as general. We take each case as an individual, and we treat each person with a lot of dignity, bearing in mind counseling is a humanity resource. It's about the human being. It's about taking care of the human being. It is about taking care of the well-being, the mental well-being of the other person. And
now,
not
Anastasia,
therefore,
who comes first in as far as counseling and psychology is concerned? If I've been directed by my employer to come to seek counseling, are you then going to submit, the outcome of that particular session to my employer, and yet I am your first client? I'm your client. The issue of confidentiality is my information and the findings of a sanctioned counseling session by someone's employer. Do you reveal this information to them, or then what happens in such kind of a situation? Because we have people who are texting in and saying that when the company required them to take up counseling, then the company also required to see or rather hear the findings of that particular counseling session, and they ended up losing their jobs. From where you sit then, how does ethics come into play? Who is your priority in such a case?
That's a very good question, and that is a very good concern. You need to understand from where I sit, ethics governs us, and ethics, we are not supposed to reveal people's secrets. We are only supposed to, like a client has been sent to me by a certain company. When they sent that client to me, maybe because of an alcoholism or something, an issue, I should not report to them about what we share with the client. My only report that I'm going to give, it is, I've worked with the client, and the client is now at that stable state of mind to be able to go back to work. I'm not supposed to give details. Why? Because if I want to give details of a client, I need to seek consent from the client. Even when I want to give somebody's story, even talking about somebody's story, maybe a successful story from a client, I should not talk about it in the public unless the clients give me a consent. What we give at the place of work when people said as clients, we only send a report to, again, consider the individual, because in counseling, the client comes first. The human being comes first. And we don't rebel, number one. We should not rebel. Number two, we don't start at a point whereby we should judge. We don't judge. The ethics don't allow us to judge. Number three, we should treat people with a lot of the benefit should be for the client. Therefore, the report that you can only give, this is where I start. The report that you can only give to the client or to the family members, just in case somebody wants to commit suicide or they want to kill somebody else. In case somebody wants to harm, if there is any harm, self-harm or other people's harm, that way the ethics consider us to go and report the same, because if there is self or public harm, that one, there are people who will tell you, I have a gun in the house and I want to kill my wife, I want to kill my children. That time you need now to cause an alarm. And that is a point whereby we also seek psychiatrist help, whereby they can be taken to like a mental health hospital to go and be taken care of, because now that one is overboard. Therefore, I want to report to you, the professional counselor, a professional psychologist is not supposed to give the detailed report of a client if there is no consent, unless the client wants to harm themselves or to harm somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Now, thank you for that clarification, because the issue of lack of trust in regard to how much is going to be shared and who is going to get this information has been one of the reasons why Kenyans have been shying away from seeking professional help in as far as counseling is concerned. Now, Do we have, psychologists who cater to different demographic, like children, for instance? Because we're seeing, especially right now that they're home, they're also undergoing a lot of stress, as well as their parents, and their parents may not be just, the right people to have this conversation. You can imagine someone who is waiting to sit for their, KCP examinations. They have to repeat another class, another year.
Yeah.
The same with the KCSE. Do we have professionals who cater to children and their needs in as far as mental wellness is concerned?
Very true. I want to say that we have specialists in different fields. We have, like, personally, I've really worked with adolescents. I've worked in school, and therefore I can say that I'm a specialist in adolescent and teens counseling and youth, because I've worked with them quite much. And that way, I'm also able to support the parents, because the parents, when you get the issues from the children or from the teens, you're able now to talk with the parents. I want to say there are people in various fields. We have marriage and family therapists. We have children and adolescent counseling, like I'm one of them. We also have the ones who deal with the people. We have people in different fields. We have specialists in different areas. So we also have people who are general, but we have people in those specialized areas. I also deal with corporates. We do corporate training and corporate counseling, whereby we have all those speciality. And I want to build again trust. Maybe you're there and you fell in the hands of somebody who treated you not well. I want to let you know that we have counselors who are professionals in Kenya, and we have a care of us. I want to make sure that I build back trust, because we need to embrace counseling, not for the purpose of gossip, not for the purpose of betrayal. I want to build trust once again, to know that we have professional counselors who are ready to support you in the work of your psychological, emotional, and mental wellness. Therefore, we have those specialty. Please don't shy, seek out, and you'll get the specialist in every different field.
Now, I would like to give you another opportunity, actually, though you've almost summarized what you wanted to say, but another opportunity to appeal to that someone who is feeling down. We've had, especially on social media, just people urging different people to just check on your friend, find out how they're doing. Those ones that seem that are always happy, ever smiling, are going through difficult times. As a psychologist, I'm giving you this opportunity to appeal to that person who is already feeling on edge, and just try and reassure them that it's not the end of the journey.
Very true. I want to touch on this one thing. Please, seeing somebody with a broad smile, they are outside. When somebody is dressed okay, it doesn't mean that they are okay. Their mind is okay. They may be passing through pain. They may be emotionally hurt. They may be having stressors. They may be having things that are disturbing them. And therefore, I want to encourage us, even with the social distances, please get to reach out to somebody. Give a call to a friend, even if she's not your friend, a work colleague. Maybe you're working with them and today they're not working. Please reach out to them. These are the moments whereby people are feeling lonely, people are feeling left out, and people are feeling withdrawn. And because of the many thoughts that are coming their way, people have given up. Please, I want to encourage us. Let's be a community, be a support system to somebody. Please encourage somebody. Let them know that you care. And I want to remind us that people will never know that you care until you will make them feel that you care. That is what Maya Angelou said. That people will forget what you said, they will forget what you did, but they will never forget what you made them feel. And that is about the emotional wellness. Therefore, reach out to somebody. And for the parents who are having children in the house, some of them, they are teenagers, they are wondering, how will I handle the turbulences, the emotional turbulences of my teen? I want to encourage you. We are here to support you. And you may not be knowing how, but please seek out for help. And we are here to talk to you. And also, I urge the government, now that the children are in the house, please let's come up with programs, that virtual program that can reach out to the children, that can reach out to the teenagers, that can reach out to the young people who have given up. Remember, this is a generation. We don't know what is the aftermath of COVID-19. We don't know what is going to come out. And that is why you're finding a lot of damaging things, because that is why they have resolved to sex, and sex has already come out very clearly that we have teens pregnancies. Others are on drugs and substance abuse, because that is the only way of comfort. Others are on pornographic sites. We are here as counselors, and we have many counselors in Kenya. We are ready to support you. We are ready to support our community with our skills. And therefore, I urge our president, please embrace mental health in our nation. Embrace mental health as a public health. Let it be considered as a public health, because mental health may not be seen, but it's very destructive. We don't know the outcome of COVID-19, but something may be cooking, and therefore we are here to support you. Counselors, you're many, and we're here to support you. And please, I encourage somebody, maybe you're lonely. Please, I encourage you, don't give up. We are here for you. And I encourage you, don't give up. Again, don't give up. You may be asking, what am I going to do? What next? I want to talk to you. Don't give up. It's not gone until it's gone. Don't commit suicide. Don't commit suicide. I repeat to you, we are here to support you. Reach out to somebody. And if you have a neighbor, please check on them. If you have a friend, please check on them and encourage them. We are here to support you. Thank you.
Very well said. That has been our guest this morning, a psychologist, that is Anastasia Kihwanga, saying that, the end, it's not the end of the road. Check on your friend. Find out the one who is actually happy on the outside might not necessarily be doing so well on the inside. And her appeal, especially to the male folk, is that men also just come out and embrace, counseling, and also the issue of, confidentiality, that is assured, that you do not need to shy away to get to seek counseling, so that you get help. A problem shared is half solved. Let's talk to each other, especially during this time. And you've been challenged, you and I as well, on an individual capacity, that to watch out for triggers, issues of stress, anything that gives you stress, anxiety, and you're completely overwhelmed and you cannot solve that particular issue. That is a trigger there that needs your immediate attention, and you need to seek help, professional help, because every market has a madman. And also within the counseling and psychology field, we have those people who are quacks. We have quacks, and so professionals are appealing for you. If you feel that you need this particular service, you seek these services from a professional counselor, so that you get help that you require. The message take home is that taking your life or someone else's life is not a solution to your current situation. And appeal also to the president there once again to have mental health and mental wellness issues made a public health issue. Doreen, I don't know what you have to say. What is your opinion in regard to the current status of our mental health? The current reports indicates that one out of four Kenyans is suffering from one form of mental mental health issue. What's your take?
Wow. And I think, let me just, picking up from what Anastasia has said, and I think I like what she says when she mentioned that it is important to speak out, and speaking out is not a form of weakness. And oftentimes when we talk about mental health and mental health issues, and anytime when we just look at the issue of speaking out, it normally falls on men, because oftentimes there's that mindset and that idea that, as a man you need to be strong, you don't need to speak. And at least for women, sort of look like they get away with it because they can't be able to speak. Women talk a lot, we talk a lot as ladies. But I think I like what she said when she said that it is important for us to speak out, because then again, speaking out also just helps you realize as a person that sometimes when you thought that your issue was big or whatever you're going through was difficult, when you talk to someone, then you get to realize that they too have probably either a similar issue or even a much heavier and a much bigger problem. So anytime when you talk about matters to do with mental health, I think the first step and what is really important, especially for us individuals to understand, is that sometimes life just happens, and it is very necessary and very important for us to talk. And also the most important thing is that to find someone who you can probably rely on, someone you can deem and think of as a confidant, not someone that will go to tell you issues, then they are going out and about spreading that specific issue, making even you to be burdened and making your mental capacity to not even be good at all. So I think it's very important for us to learn to talk and speak out, and also for us to prioritize the issue and the matter of mental health, to actually look at it, not looking at it as something that we constantly like to say that this is an issue and a problem of people coming from the first world countries, or it's an issue of those coming from the rich families. Mental issue cuts across. It affects everyone, whether it's rich, informal, rural, first world, third world countries, Africa. It doesn't really, it's not specific to any kind of caliber. It cuts across depending on country, on race. It cuts across on either gender, either male or female. So I think the moment we start looking at mental issues and start to prioritize such kind of issues, and moving away from the statement that it's only something that affects people of a certain stature or a certain caliber, then I think it's going to be a good avenue and a good way of us knowing how best and to start dealing with the mental issues. So I think, Ray, that was a very good conversation, and for me, really what I picked a lot from that conversation that you just had there with Anastasia is that it is important to speak out. We should not take speaking out or talking to someone as a form of weakness, or we are probably weak in one area or one sector of our life or the other. That it's very necessary and very important for us to talk, have conversation, talk about your issues, seek solutions. And also just what she said is that psychologists are there for us. They are there for, to talk to us, at least to help us navigate this thing about life, because sometimes life can be very difficult. Sometimes things just happen and you don't really know whether you're gone or coming, whether things are here, neither here, neither there. So speaking out, I really picked that, and I think it is very, very important for us to just be able to talk, to be able to address, issues such as those of mental health or any issues you may be going through in life or even just as a person.
Mm-hmm. Also, I would want just a quick one before I let you go, Doreen, there.
Yeah.
There's been what our guest has said there, Anastasia, the issue of confidence and trust, that if you share your particular issues with a professional, they're not going to then, be aired to the public or even shared by your employer. This has been cited as one of the reasons why people do not seek counseling, because they feel that I'm going to speak out, and this person is going to say, hey, Regina is XYZ. You may see her smiling there, but she's XYZ. Do you think this is one of the reasons why Kenyans do not, seek professional help from where you stand, especially young people?
Yeah.
You can imagine even we had counseling sessions in schools, but it was always thought it was a punishment, a sort of punishment, and the reason why you're being taken for counseling is so that the principal and the management and the administration alike can get to know exactly what is happening in your life.
Absolutely, Ray, and you just put it rightfully that sometimes could that be an issue as to why people don't talk, as to why people don't speak out, the issue of confidence. And you see, if you just can remember what I was saying when I was picking up from your side, and that time just picking up again from what Anastasia was saying, is that in as much as yes, you want to speak out, the issue of confidence always becomes an issue. And also just giving my own, perspective as a person, is that even for me as a person, I'm very secretive. So sometimes that idea of, if I tell this person, whether they are a counselor or a psychologist, how sure am I as an individual they won't go to tell their friends or their colleague? And yes, that always comes out. But again, Ray, just speaking again for all that you've talked about, is accepting. So I feel like the moment we start by first accepting that this is what I'm going through as a person, this happened to my life, or someone did this to me, and the way I'm feeling personally, the way it's affecting my mental capacity, the mental faculty, things are not going well. So if I accept it, then I will be willing and ready to speak to someone and be very confident, even in myself, that when I talk to them, at least they can be able to keep it. But then again, I also just want to say to the counselors and even the psychologists that it's very important that when someone comes to talk to you, just keep it. Look for a way to help this person. Look for a way to assist them, but keep it so that at least it can build confidence in this, when you can build confidence in people anytime they're going through stuff, that actually they can speak to a counselor, I can speak to a psychologist, and they can help me as a person, but still they can keep my issue, just between them, between this person and me, and keep it as confidential as it's supposed to be. So yes, that could be an issue, but then again, it's very important for just us, for us as people to accept and to be able to speak.
Now, the issue of confidence, the issue that if I open up, this information is not later going to be used against me. Then there's also something else that has come up from that conversation, the issue of, psychological, or rather what we call emotional violence that, especially within a relationship. And what our guest, who is a psychologist, had pointed to, had said, there's a correlation between, mental illness to the rise of gender-based violence, but now zero in on emotional violence. You see, psychological pains and scars that people can't see are very hard to explain to someone, hey, that I am stressed because of XYZ, and yet you don't see it on my face. What do you have to say about that, Doreen?
Well, the issue of gender-based violence, which is again one of the things that you're really grappling with, especially in this time, domestic violence, and even for minors. You can imagine this is a 12-year-old, a 13-year-old, someone just getting into their teens or even in their pre-teens. They've been violated either sexually, probably beaten up, the domestic violence. And then you wonder, how do I go say this? How do I report? How do I speak? And sometimes there's that thought of the person who has violated you is even threatening you, saying that if you report this, if you speak about this, then I'm going to do this even more, or I'm going to do something probably different. And yes, there's that idea of fear, especially when it comes to matters of GBV, sexual violence, domestic violence, and most especially when it comes to the minors, because yes, you wonder, if I speak, how will I be helped? And even not even how will I be helped, then how do I even start speaking about it? Assuming that there's someone who violated you sexually, how do you start talking about this issue? But again, but you see, then again, Ray, it still boils down to that issue of speak out, because you see, then if you don't talk about it, then there's no way of you getting help as a person. So in as much as this person may have threatened you and instilled fear, but I still insist on, and you just in line with what Anastasia said, that speaking out is the first step. And actually, when you look at life even as a whole perspective, talking is the first step of dealing with issues, because if you don't talk about it, then how else am I supposed to know that this is what you're going through, this is how probably I need to come in and help? So sometimes, yes, it may be difficult. You may not know how to go about it. You may not know what to say, how to say it, especially in instances where fear has been instilled. But I still insist that it is very, very important. And I will keep reiterating that if at all we have to deal with mental issues as something that we have to do away with, then talking about this thing is always the first step. So just speak about it, regardless of how difficult it may be. Just find a way to, ease yourself and start talking about all these things that have happened to you as a person, because this is the only way you can get help as an individual.
A problem shared is half solved.
Exactly.
Accept and seek professional help, as well as, have a support structure to help you overcome circumstances, and listen to yourself. Anything that stresses you up, anything that gives you an anxiety, that is a trigger. And if it is not solved in good time, it has a very huge chance of blowing up and turning to, you might get psychotic. That is a conversation this morning in regard to mental wellness and mental health. Now, shifting gears and focusing on issues, or rather looking at the human resource department, employment. Currently, the coronavirus pandemic has taken the globe by storm, and its domino effect has far-reaching consequences, from value chain disruptions to loss of livelihoods that have, resulted in depressed earnings. Looking at the local scene is that statistics indicate that over 1 million jobs have been lost. Yes, and this has continued to pile pressure on homestays and individuals alike. How does, the Kenya's employment scene look like right now, and what do we expect in the next 6 months? Taking us through this conversation is Nelly Ayako, who is a HR consultant and career mentor. Good morning, Nelly. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good.
Great to have you on board, and thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you too.
Now, seeing the latest developments there with just that particular, statistics that has been made public, that so far, over 1 million people have lost their source of livelihood over, COVID disruptions and such. From where you sit as a HR consultant, are we out of the storm, or should we brace for more layoffs and furloughs going into the future?
As a HR consultant, what I say, we are not out as you are putting across. We have to continue pressing on. We still have time. We can still restore back the business where it was. So it's not late. Just keep on pressing. We still have just to put things in consideration, how the things that are required in consideration, and then we'll be able to be back to the course.
Mm-hmm. Most critics have come out, especially those people who've lost their jobs, have said that, the trade unions do not put them into consideration, especially within the horticulture subsector, one that is worse hit with this COVID disruptions. The flower farmers, especially the workers there, are saying that trade unions did not listen to them and did not cushion them, from these layoffs and disruptions. As a HR consultant, is that the true position, or are firms justified to just lay off people and employ others at for cheaper pay?
The aspect of laying off people and employing others for cheaper pay, I will not go for it. But on the aspect of union, I'll still stand on their side, because even them, they do not know what to do at the moment. These are an issue that has hit all the section. So it's not like there's something they can do about it. It's only that employers could have time and talk to the employee, negotiate, even if it's a low, maybe pay cut and all that would be an ideal, other than laying them off and getting other people to replace them. That's not a good idea at the moment.
Mm-hmm. From where you sit, which are the sectors, or rather which industries are going to be seeing these layoffs and furloughs going on in the next 6 months? Which areas are going to be affected as companies try to stay afloat?
Mostly service industry would be on my side. I would say service industry, because you'll find that some of the jobs can be done by two jobs can be done by one person, and you realize maybe they've employed one person for this individual job. So service industry will be one of the areas that will be affected mostly. Yeah, basically that's what I would say.
Mm-hmm. So then, going forward, are you likely to see, a change in dynamics, in as far as the employment scene is concerned? Are we likely to see a shift from, white-collar jobs and people now going into entrepreneurship with the current situation?
Yes, I've seen that highly. Most of the people right now are resolving to do business. Those who never knew they can do business, they're changing, they're becoming innovative. So it's something that I know as you're going back to work, most of the organization will be hit, because people are getting to know they can do a number of things, and they're coming up with different things. They're becoming innovative.
Mm-hmm. Now, whenever one is laid off, all the question is that was unfair, I didn't get it, was a breach of contract. In what situations can one seek redress, or rather some sort of compensation from their former employer?
As much as we are going through this pandemic issue, it doesn't give an excuse for employers or organizations to go against the legal aspect. All aspects that need to be followed as per the legal way. So if the aspect of laying off any employee, you need to follow up the procedure as required. So any employer who has been laid off and procedural has equal right to go and file the case and follow up with the legal aspect.
Mm-hmm. Would you have a case in point in which, at what point, especially those who are maybe they did not sign a contract, these are people who just earn daily wages, then how then do they secure their livelihoods in the event that they are actually laid off? Then and they don't have a contract, then what happens in such a situation?
Under legal aspect, we have oral contract, and that's verbal contract, and we still have written contract, and they're still all viable. So any can still work, but when it comes to casual, you find that casual are paid at the end of the day. So you'll find that it depends on the work, availability of work. So this could not really work for them because there's no job. So the contract, the aspect of contract cannot be real work on their side.
Mm-hmm. So from where you sit, what is the return to work formula? We've had over a million jobs have been lost so far. Post-COVID-19, what are the dynamics? What are the dynamics we expect to see into the future?
First of all, the dynamics first, the aspect, the return back to formula to work, the first thing you'll find that it will have its own effect because right now a number of people, the moment people were released to go home, those who are released on unpaid leave, that those who are released that the job is over, that those who are released on they were doing like a shift aspect. So you find most of them that have gone ahead looking for jobs, others have gone to business. So you find that most of the company will be hit up where they'll end up having few staff coming back to work. But nevertheless, when you're talking about the formula of coming back to work, what I would say from my end, first of all, organization or rather employers should ensure the working area is very safe for the staff as they are coming back to work. And another key thing, the change of the policy as the working policies and the procedures have to be worked on to accommodate the current issues.
Now, there's been talk that, or rather anticipation on what direction the president is going to take in regard to, with the current situation that we are going through. There's a meeting that is going to be convened on Friday because, amid the increased cases of COVID-19, one of the proposals that has been put in place is that, Kenya lacks a social safety net, a social security safety net. And in the event that we end up locked up, we will not be able to sustain our employees or rather just basically the citizenry. From where you sit in terms of human resource then, in the event that this happens and everyone is sent home, are workers still entitled to their earnings if such a direction was to be taken?
I'm hoping we're not going to through that kind of direction again. But nevertheless, if this is what's going to happen, I wouldn't say they are entitled because I'm an employee. And sometimes you really want to pay your employees, but you do not have anything to pay because there's no productivity. So what I would say is just employers should sit down with workers, agree, let them reason up, sit down, agree and reason up on this issue and see how they can handle it. Because at the moment, as much as I would want to pay you, where do I get that money? I don't have that money at the moment. You are not working, there's no productivity. So there's that aspect of just understanding the situation and people getting to do something that they can do to make themselves move on in life. One would
want, or rather, let me be a devil's advocate at this point, yeah? This is a pandemic that has taken us by storm. In the event that you go on a lockdown, it's not that the individual employee has declined to go to work, it's that the situation they find themselves in, and this is a directive that has been given. Doesn't the employer, or rather the firm and the company, have a responsibility to their workforce to ensure that they may not earn their full salaries, but they get to take something at the end of the day? Whether the company is, I don't know the dynamics. What does the law say? What does the law say in the event of, such an unprecedented issue? I understand there's also something called insurance. Companies get into insurance for such kind of issues. Then what does the law say in that regard?
Actually, on this area, since we've never had this before in the country, or we've never been faced with this earlier, so there's nothing that the law speaks about this area. It's silent about this area. And the thing of paying the employee, it depends also on various organizations. There are those that had a lot, yeah, they can still come up with the issue now, they can cut down, but it's not easy. To me, I will not lie to you, it's easy because I've seen even those organizations that are doing very well, they could accommodate it up to July. After July, what they have indicated that they cannot pay completely, but they still, the only favor they can do is not to sack the employee. Ensure the employees are still there, their job is still there, assure them the job is still there, but we cannot pay you at this moment.
A layman question here. Is there a humane way of letting go of an employee? You know, in terms of ethics, in terms of the law. Is there a humane way of letting go of an employee? Because Kenyans are crying and saying that it is unfair. This is a difficult time. Why was I sent home? I have been working for this number of years. I've never, failed in my duty. Is there a humane way of letting go of an employee?
There is a procedure, but at this moment, I would not say that it's also proper for you as an employer to let go the employee. The only thing you can just put them to unpaid leave, give them unpaid leave, but not letting them go. But nevertheless, there's a procedure that needs to be followed when you're letting them go. There must be a reason. So you can't say that you're telling people to go home because of this pandemic. The only thing you can give them leave when you come back after the whole process, they can come back to work, but not laying them off from work.
I'd want to hear your opinion in regards to the fate of teachers working in private schools. There's been great debate. Teachers on one side are saying that, they are going through hard times because the schools are not paying them. When you ask the management, or what we call the administrators, they say parents have not paid. And parents say they are not willing to pay for school fees because this is a service that has not been rendered. The argument of digital learning, or rather what we're calling remote learning, is not also available to, each and every pupil or student. Quagmire of sorts. How can we entangle it from your point, from where you sit?
Okay, I've been following up that debate. At one point, I was also a teacher in a private school, and I understand what they are going through. But one thing, I will not blame the employers, the school owners, because actually they're also depending from their parents. And if the parents don't pay, and they cannot pay on the service that's not there, there's no one to blame among these. The only thing I would ask the teachers, it's a hard time. I understand their situation, but also they should come up with other ways of making a living. They can get business, they can get doing other things. I see that those who have gone to farming, other than waiting and making noise, waiting for this, the employer to pay them, they're also in the fix. They're entrepreneur, they're in the fix. There's nowhere they can pay the money at the moment.
So there is no way out for this. There's no way out, for teachers teaching in a private institution, and that they are. Is that what I'm hearing? That they are at the mercy of the school, and more so at the mercy of the parents. Is that what I'm hearing from your end?
Sure, they are at the mercy of the parents. Actually, not even the school, the parents. Because if the parents don't pay, it becomes hard for the owners of the school to think on how they are going to pay them.
Now, since you're talking post-COVID, some of the gaps that COVID has highlighted is that we don't need as much human resource as we thought we should, and now we're seeing even interviews, meetings, conferences are happening over the internet. What is the future of the human resource department, rather subsecting as far as the employment value chain is concerned going into the future? The issue between man versus intelligence, is this coming to birth with COVID-19?
Pardon, I haven't got
the issue of, are we going to see, online or rather technology taking the space, of human workforce, going into the future?
On my side as a human resource, I would say I agree partly about the sentiment. The whole aspect of working is basically changing. You realize that most of the areas, for example, maybe you are 10 in an office. Due to this COVID-19, you realize maybe 3 people are in the office and they're able to run the whole aspect of the office, the whole work in the office. So basically, it's going to affect the human resource aspect, where you find that the number within the office are going to be reduced, because you realize that some of the people are not needed, and some of this work can still be done at home. You don't really need to come to the office.
Mm-hmm. Very well said. Thank you very much, Nelly Ayeko. She's a HR consultant and a career mentor, saying that the future is still uncertain as far as human resources is concerned, and we just need to weather the storm. And as far as where companies are concerned, in layoffs and follows of the human resource advices that send people on compulsory leave, but do not necessarily, ask them, or rather just lay them off, because this is a global pandemic that no one had prepared for. Maria Yako, who is a HR consultant and a career mentor, that brings us the cup to the this interview this morning. But we are not done here on Good Morning Kenya, and we appreciate your feedback. Keep your feedback coming in. Doreen Arange is going to be sampling that in the course of the broadcast, so to keep it right here. But from me is have a pleasant day ahead and enjoy your viewing.
All right, thank you very much, Reggie, for that. That was very insightful in talks when it comes to matters employment and what to do. And I think what I've really learned from that discussion is that actually there's a verbal contract. I really didn't know that we could actually have something like a verbal contract. All you know is that it has to be written, papers have to be signed. But I think that was very insightful. And also just drawing from the fact that it's very necessary to know how employers need to be relating and dealing with their employees during this pandemic. You mentioned really well, Ray, that it has caught everyone by storm. No one was prepared for this. So just coming down to matters employment and how employers need to be treating their employees. So it's really a time that it's more of like a wake-up call for us, and just giving the fact that we could do something different besides just being in the employment sector. We could also get into entrepreneurship, trying to do what we can with our talents as well as our gifts. We now want to move to our last conversation of the day, but before we get to do that, Ray, just picking up from what our guest said in terms of matters employment in regards to verbal contract. Were you aware that there's actually something like a verbal contract?
For me, I liked that aspect. That is something that I found out, or rather something new that I've learned this morning, because half the time, especially those people, if you haven't penned a contract, it's considered that you never had a contract. But now that is good, because Nelly Ayako there has said that there also a verbal contract does exist and it is viable. So if you've been working, especially casual laborers, if you've been engaged in some projects where you earn your wages on a daily basis, that is also there's a possibility that you are in a verbal kind of contract. You do not need to pen a signature on a contract, and that it is viable in as far as human resource ethics is concerned. That is something that most casual laborers have been grappling with, and it is good that it has come out, and we know that it actually is a valid contract. Further on, something that I can take home is that the issue of, we need to now think, rather recalibrate our thought process in terms of employment, and we need now to focus more on entrepreneurship, because going forward with the current statistics that indicates that over 1 million people have lost a source of livelihood courtesy of the global pandemic that is coronavirus, we need to rethink, recalibrate how we can reinvent ourselves. I also tend to believe that Kenyans are a resilient lot. We can get through it, and we've seen different inventions coming into place during this time. We've had firms who have started started making PPEs. At the same time, we've had young people leveraging on ICT and coming up with software that has enabled the Ministry of Health keep track of those who have tested positive, and contact tracing has all been done by local software developers. So this has shown that we have a capacity to come up with things that can fill the niche. As well as, you know, Kenya, the horticulture industry is one of the industries that has been worst hit, as well as the tourism industry. We've seen various sectors and sector leaders. Let's look at tourism. They've said that we need to focus on domestic tourism more to just keep this subsector afloat. Kenyans now are taking drives to Masai Mara. Kenyans are now also using the SGR. It was actually overbooked. And we're also seeing people visiting the Nairobi National Park, just trying to keep ourselves afloat, the economy afloat. We're trying to do the little that we can. There's also been a call to embrace the Buy Kenya, Build Kenya initiative, that if you're purchasing something, purchase something that is made in Kenya, so that we can help that person who came up with that idea and invested in it to just remain afloat. 2 weeks back, the Ministry of Trade and Industry visited Nature IoT, you know, Internet of Things firm that is owned by 30-year-old Mbetsa, who had made the first ever made in Kenya thermogun. That particular thermogun fetches, or rather goes for 5,000 shillings. Yet imported thermoguns that we are seeing, you know, in the market, and some of them even are turning out to be counterfeits, and others also substandard goods, fetch around 22,000. And what the CAS there said upon that meeting is that, you know, we need to embrace local solutions for local problems, especially more so during this COVID-19 pandemic. That is just a recap of what we've been highlighting there, just focusing on the issues of HR and saying that the future is going to be driven by technology. As you've seen, most conversations are happening over the net, online. Everything is online. We're learning digitally, though it is not reaching everyone. Meetings are happening over Zoom and webinar. Basically, the future is technology. We need to recalibrate how we look at the employment scene. I'm Regina Manyara. I wish you a great day ahead, and I leave you in the capable hands of my colleague, Doreen Arange.
All right, great insights there. Time for our next traffic update this early morning. Our focus had been just on what is happening around Thika Superhighway, specifically Garden City Mall. So this is how it's looking like in terms of traffic. Again, just clearways around this specific area, especially this is just as you head over to the city center, but it looks like traffic beginning to slightly build up just past Garden City. But again, for the benefit of our viewers who might not have caught us on the fast traffic link-up segment, let me just tell you the reason as to why we were looking at this specific area. This is Garden City Mall as well as Survey area. Those had been and still are our areas this morning in terms of traffic. This is the reason. This is the image of a Survey area. Before I just come to Garden City, there was a footbridge that was expected to be installed around this area, at least latest by mid-April. That was said by the Kenya National Highways Authority, or if you may, KENHA. That bridge was to take at least about 2 months before it was installed. So it began at around early this year, expected to end by mid-April, but that didn't happen. This was one to be at Survey area. The other one was to be around Garden City Mall. Now, just to recap for our viewers, Thika Superhighway is one of those busy highways, especially in the Nairobi city, given the fact that it serves quite a number of residents. When you look at the kind of estates along this road, I can tell you for a fact, there are quite many, quite numerous, and also in terms of businesses, we have both large scale, both small scale. Talk about industries and companies, schools, you know, in terms of universities, primary, secondary. So they're really quite a number of them along this highway, making it one of Kenya's busy roads. And also in terms of death cases, it at least was recording quite a number of high death cases, and this was because of at least lack of some footbridges in some specific area. A case in point was one around Mangu area, and this is why it resorted to the residents there just saying that it is very important for this bridge to be installed there. Now, Thika Superhighway has 18 footbridges so far. 4 had been slated. And again, to recap for our viewers, the 4 is, one is at around Mangu, one was to be around Mangu area. The other one was to be around Witivie, Survey, and Garden City. The only one that has just been installed so far is one around Witivie area. That is the only one which has been installed. The other one is expected around this area, which is the image I'm showing you. and the other one is expected to be around Garden City. Now, this is how this process has been coming along. Just looking at these images, clearly there's no bridge yet. This is a couple of months down the line. This process began in 2018, where this bridges was all supposed to be installed. It has now taken 2 years, and only one has been installed and opened up to the public. The 3 are still yet to be installed. But I had mentioned to you that Kenya issued a statement on 10th of July, some 2 weeks ago, on the progress and the process of this footbridge installation, and they just said the reason as to why it has taken a bit of a time, especially for these 2 that had already been slated and earmarked, one at Garden City and one at Survey, is because of lack of funds. Funding has become an issue, and that is why this one has taken the time in which it has taken. Looking at this image, this is how actually Survey area looks. If someone uses Thika Superhighway, then you can attest to that. This is how this specific place looks like in terms of this installation. Nothing has been done yet. This is just how the works looks like. So let's look at the traffic around this specific area and try to look at how this stalling of this process has probably impacted traffic around these 2 areas, that is around Survey as well as Garden City. And let me just start with Garden City Mall. This is as you head over to the city center, given the fact that it's one of those busy areas, alluding to the fact that it's also a bus terminus, and just by the name itself, Garden City Mall. So a number of activities, especially around this place. Now, in the first traffic link-up segment, when you're looking at how this area was doing in terms of traffic, this is just how it was actually. The inner lanes was where we were witnessing traffic, and that is how it is, some minutes probably to almost the top of the hour, and this is how it is still looking like. It's very interesting because along Thika Highway or Thika Road, especially this early morning hour, we normally expect the roads to be very busy, traffic heavy buildup of traffic, either on outer lanes or on inland lanes. In terms of colors, we expect to be seeing more of the red and maroon, indicating that traffic moving pretty slowly, and even in some areas just at a standstill. But as of now, moving at a pretty fast pace. Again, traffic only being witnessed on the inner lanes of this road. So again, what this means is that if you're coming from Kasarani, from Mwiki, from Roysambu, even from the outskirts of Nairobi, using Thika Road as you head about your businesses, or even just going along around Thika, Thika Superhighway, or even coming to the city center, then this is really the best time for you to do that, because as of now, there's barely any traffic, moving at a pretty fast pace, only on some specific areas where traffic is building up. But even at that, in as much as it is slightly building up, at least it is manageable there. And away from Garden City, coming all the way to Kasarani, again moving at a pretty fast pace. Looking just from a map this morning, green all through, indicating for us that there's no traffic at all, clear ways along this highway, moving at a pretty fast pace. But also the reason as to why this road had been reconstructed, to make it an 8-lane road, a super highway, was again to ease on the traffic congestion. And it looks like really that is really serving its purpose, because as of now, on this specific areas which I'm trying to focus on, there's barely any traffic, and in areas where traffic is really manageable, moving at a pretty fast pace. But also, it's important for me to mention that around or along Thika Superhighway, the traffic police are also normally stationed, especially on major parts such as around the outer ring, around what used to be the Allsops roundabout, which is what actually I'm looking at right now, in places such as Pangani, Muthaiga. They're normally stationed, just try to see how best they can control traffic. Again, another area where we normally spot heavy traffic buildup is around this place. This is where it used to be the Allsops roundabout, because it branches going all the way to Outer Ring Road, coming from Thika Superhighway, heading all the way to City Center using Thika Road. Around this area, again, no traffic at all, just on specific areas just around next to the GSU, that is where traffic is. But in as much as there's traffic there, at least it's pretty manageable, because we are not really seeing more of the maroon, indicating for us that it is at a standstill, not moving at all. Clearly, as of now, moving at a pretty fast pace, just in some areas where there's just a slight building up of traffic, moving at a pretty slow pace, and this is next to GSU. But on major parts of this road, moving really fast. Actually, on those areas where I just looked at, there's barely any traffic. But next to Utalii, Utali, on this area, then if you're actually coming from Thika Road and you're next or almost coming to this specific area, then you may just have to make do with this traffic here, because then around this area there's no alternative route. The next alternative route actually is next to Pangani, but around this area there's no alternative route, so that means you may have to make do, not even have, you will make do the traffic around this area. But that is just past KCA, coming all the way to Utali. Wow, around this area traffic really is building up. It is unlike what you are seeing around Garden City Mall. This area traffic really actually at a standstill, and I can tell for our viewers who are using Thika Road coming to the city center, or even coming from CBD going about your businesses around Thika Road, then you may just have to make do with this. And this area, which I was telling you that could serve as one of those, the first alternative routes, which is around Pangani area, also looks that, and around this area doesn't really look good at all. Traffic all through, and you can just clearly see from the cocktail of colors here, all red, maroon, orange, indicating for us that traffic is beginning to slightly build up in some parts, in some areas moving at a pretty slow pace, in others just at a standstill. This is all the way coming from just slightly past KCA, coming all the way from Utali, coming all the way to Utali College, all the way to Muthaiga. On this specific area, traffic just at a standstill. But I had also mentioned to you that around this area is where we normally spot the traffic police also trying to see how best they can control traffic. But given the fact that Thika Road is one of those busy roads, and also given the fact that Nairobi is now open, so that means people are coming into the city, some going out of Nairobi. So again, that could also be the reason as to why we are seeing or witnessing this heavy traffic gridlock as we are seeing right now. I want us to close traffic this morning, but before we get to do that, let me just look at one last area, and this is slightly past Pangani, coming all the way to Muranga Road, just before you get to the this Globe Cinema roundabout. Again, also on this other area, traffic really building up, but past Pangani looks like it's a smooth sailing. This is just a long Muranga Road before you get to the Globe Cinema roundabout. Looks like it's a smooth sailing. So again, for those that are coming from Thika Superhighway, then you may just have to branch off to Pangani as one of the alternative routes, in as much as, yes, it's really, building up there, but that could serve as a really good alternative route for you there. So that's that this morning in terms of traffic. Our focus has just been around what has been happening specifically around Garden City as well as Survey, but we've also just tried to look at some other roads and try to give our viewers any alternative routes, especially for those that are using Thika Road as you head over to your businesses in this early morning hour. But again, remember, we'll continue to keep tabs, especially around Survey and Garden City Mall, given that statement that was issued by Ken Has saying that they will continue the process of this footbridge installation. We'll keep tabs to see how this is coming along. But that's that in terms of traffic this morning, and that is where we wrap Good Morning Kenya this Tuesday morning. Many thanks for making time from me, and on behalf of the entire team that made this show a success, we again say thank you so much for watching. Till tomorrow, stay safe, be good to one another. My name is Dorina Range. Good morning.
We have a move which will force Bindusar to consider Dharma as the culprit in the entire conspiracy. My aim is neither to get Dharma punished nor to take revenge from her.
He said that the king's dearest wife Dharma is behind all this.
Why did you hide from me? What forced you to do this? Don't you wish to meet me?
On the next episode
Don't trust me anymore. Just say so and we can stop all this. Because I don't agree with you giving preferential treatment to someone over me.
What happened to you?
I was robbed and I had to give them Osvaldo's car.
Oh, honey, are you all right?
Yes. They just roughed me up a little and then they took my wallet and...
Been determined that the signature appended to the insurance contract whose beneficiary is Juana Lopez Ortiz cannot be proven as one belonging to Mr. Ricardo Medina Requena.
I told you so! This woman forged my son's signature!
El paraíso
In love with Ramon.
Ayuni, mimi naona nishukue hiyo kazi ya job.
Kama kufumania wewe na Kisaka. Sitaki kuamini kabisa.
Bwana Chris.
Job.
Chris anakuanga man solo. Kwa hii nyumba yote, si tunaweza mconnect.
Na naye amekushow Chris anadai wife.
Niko sure hata wewe unajua hii ni hustle tunaweza kulia. Aha. Mbona mlitenda job? Sina kuongelesha. Chukua namba.
Wewe ni mdemo wangu.
Babe, relax.
Wewe jichuje bro.
My name is Morris, a 3D animator. I started animation a few years back because this is something that I love. I'm very passionate about animation. Animation, wale watu wanapenda cartoons, that is a part of animation. Pia animation, ukiangalia kwa movie, like kuna kuanga na robots zinafanya some stuff in the movies. Hiyo pia inakuanga part of animation. Pia kuna kuanga like in movie kuna vitu zinakuwa simulated like flowing waters. Unapata a fluid inakuja inabomoa buildings and stuff like that. Zingine zinafanyanga through animation. Yeah, that is just briefly to explain what is animation. I got interested in animation back in 2008 when I was doing computer studies. That is when I encountered PowerPoint. Everyone knows about PowerPoint. In PowerPoint, kuna kuanga na slot. You can animate some things in 2D. So that is when I discovered kuna different world that I can explore. That is when I got into animation. But in 2010, I got into campus. I did engineering, electrical and electronics. So, but still deep within media and production, nimekuwa tu nikipenda because I also do music production. Like if you listen to the content that I do 3D, iko na the music part. Hizo zote I do by myself because I loved it from the word go. So nilikuwa nafanya engineering, but I still find time. Unless azile I'm very busy, like when mitiani zikaribia, that is when sikuwa na time ya doing the productions like music, because that is what my machine could support then. Then in 2014 nikaanza sasa kutafuta softwares and tutorials, but then nilikuwa tu na laptop. Some of these softwares laptop haiwezi, so haikuwa kizungumkuti kidogo, so I took a break. I ventured into photography. Yes, I've done gigs and alafu naenda nikisave na buy equipment. So I upgraded my PC. After I upgraded sasa, that is when niliweza sasa to start again 3 years later. In 2017 I got into the depths sasa. So actually story yenye ilishinda the animation competition, it was my first complete short story. Yes. So it's a great encouragement to complete a story alafu inashinda. It means there's bright future. Kitu ya kwanza, I selected some of the finest softwares. alafu nikazianza like from the basics. Kwanza nijue terms kama what is to model, what is to rig, what is to animate, what is an avatar, what is a character. So I got into the basics. Vile tu naweza anza from kindergarten. Then after that nikaanza sasa kujua from the experts. Kuna watu wanajua kufanya hizi vitu like on YouTube you find wenye wako fine. Hata pia these softwares unapatanga they give free tutorials pale kwa YouTube. So nilispot hawa wenye wako fine, alafu nikachukua tutorials zao. Actually ni download everything, ile una download kama playlist, alafu nikaanza kupitia one after the other nikipractice. We have a dream, I'm married with my wife, to open something like studio yenye inaweza run vitu kama hizi, like inaweza fanya film and animation production. So tunaangalianga kuna hii studio inaitwa Marvel, alafu pia Disney, they are good at what they do. So hizo ndio vitu like one of my favorite movies right now ni Lion King hii mpya, because it's so realistic. Hizo ndio vitu nakuanga nataka sasa. That is the kind of animation yenye nataka kufanya. I remember it's my wife who told me about it. Alipitia tu kwa net akaona there's a competition ongoing, akanitumia. Then I decided why not try this thing. So nikaanza kutengeneza kitu. We were given a period of 3 months to create a short ni kitu ya around 5 minutes. Alafu submit kwa competition. So that tells you hiyo kitu yenye how much it needs. Kama unaweza patiwa hizo miezi zote kutengeneza kitu ya 5 minutes, it means you can tell the intensity. So I started creating. Kafika place nikaona like, najua like, let me just be honest. Initially sikuwa na story. So I was wondering, nitaunda nini sasa? This is actually my first complete short story. So to put things together, you need the music, you need the soundtracks, you need characters, you need set. So and still because I'm married, I have to provide for my family. So I'm still doing photography and videography. So at some point I almost threw in the towel. But I pressed on because my wife was behind my back. Kiniambia, you must do this thing. You can't have all these skills and still hakuna kitu, you are not showing anything. Hakuna kitu unafanya substantial na yenyewe. So I went ahead, alafu I submitted. Tulikuwa tuna submit kwa, there's a certain link tulikuwa tunapewa ya competition. So I submitted. Alafu we were 278 people when you submit from the entire Eastern Africa. Tukaselectiwa to 33 finalists. So out of the 33 finalists, sasa hao ndio tulishindana na wao, and finally nikapata the public category. Ni mimi nipatiwa vote na mafans, nikashinda. Voting was being done by the most liked. Ile itapata the most likes kwa nini on YouTube. So I remember vile when that was announced, ile pressure nilianza kupata because from the word go kuna ni kama I was having a upper hand. Kidogo kidogo there's someone who came up akanipita. You can imagine the pressure. But somewhere nika manage kumaneuver and I went ahead. And actually hata right now as we speak, bado naona I am the one who has the most votes bado kwa YouTube. So it means they are genuine. People are still watching na wana like nini. So it means everything was very genuine. So I can ile moment too, because I remember the competition ilikuwa in 96. The funny part, I was supposed to be at the venue before 6, but because of the pressure, si kutoka, like I was watching the votes penye nilikuwa, si kutoka hapo until hiyo clock click 6, si kumove. Vile niona imefika 6, that is when I went into the shower. And I was very excited. Yes. After niliona hizo votes, nimecount nikaona I'm the one who is ahead. That is when I went to prepare myself.
Mimi ndo nilikwambia ulale saa 6 usiku ukiona movie. Kwanza hiyo TV naenda kuiweka huko kwa bedroom. Kuna kitu unalitaka kwa hii nyumba apart from kukula tu na kulala? Nimesema nimetoka nje nimeenda. Nikirudi nipate watoto wangu wamepotea.
You have to be patient. Without, by the way, for you even to learn ama ku practice it, patience is number one, because like I was telling you earlier, kutengeneza something like just a character, unapata unatake an entire day, you've done nothing else, umeketi tu, kazi yako tu ni mouse and kutengeneza, unaona texture kama ziko sawa the entire day, hakuna kitu kingine umefanya, just one thing, making a character peke yake. So patience is very important. And then number 2, lazima ukuwe mtu like you are ready to learn, because I can tell you for free, hii ni kitu it needs mtu, yani you have to get in and dig into the books.
Hii ni gari ama hata ni tetanus waiting to happen. Hebu toka hapa. Hata sijasikia vibaya. Mi hata siesta kubebwa na portion meal by the way.
In Kenya, the people that you can mention like animators wale wanajulikana, one of the most renowned ni Fat Boy. Like I can't pinpoint many others, but kuna wengine like Kibali. These are people that I met tukianza after the animation. Like when we came together ndio saa tulijuana, pia unafanya animation, but initially hatuko tunajuana, but ule alikuwa anajulikana ni Fat Boy because hizi advertisement huwa ana make. Kumbe kuna watu wengine walikuwa huko chini ya maji, but right now tumeanza kujuana. Right now tunafanya workshops together, courtesy of 72 Media, the organizers. So right now saa tunaenda saa tukijuana and we are learning from each other. The clip that I submitted to the animation festival was the first complete short clip nimeunda, so bado like right now ndio sasa nimeanza looking out for market to sell and venture into the advertisement industry. But ukiangalia adverts zenye zinaundangwa unapata rating cards zina charge like around 1.5 for 1 minute clip, but don't look at them, and it's a lot of work. It takes a lot of work. Yes, like that is actually, it's a good paying job if you just get the right clients.
Atambugilile kwako nitaona mijo bewa mimi, nitaona sindu bingi, nitaleta kuchona, mimi nitaongamia sindu ile, nitachona mimi, ndeza ile nitachona.
One of the things that I dream about is to see nimeunda like a story ika cause impact, like because this is something I really love. Like mimi I feel so fulfilled nimetengeneza like some sort of a set, naona tu it is perfect, like unaona it looks real. One of the things I dream of, like I've told you about the animation and the studio, one of the things I want to do is to make a complete animation studio yenye iko na all the equipments, iko na all the like unaweza fanya stuff to do with photogrammetry, you can do photogrammetry as well as animation, you can do a complete studio yenye unaweza fanya hizo vitu zote. Yes, because I dream ikuwe like a very stable source of income for me. Like hii ni kitu naweza sema I'm sorted for life if I do this. Social media yangu kwa Instagram ni 3D Paragon ama Paragon Cartoons. That is where you can find some of the short clips nimeunda. Alafu you can check out other works zenye nimefanya kwa YouTube. My name is Maurice Mugambi. Na pia unaweza check out my clip yenye nilisubmit kwa Kenya Animation Festival, Saddest Love Story.
We interrupt normal programming to bring you this sad breaking news. Reports are coming in that 4 children have been swept away by floods, millions worth of property lost, and people left homeless and stranded. Weather experts unfortunately say that the worst is still to come. We'd like to advise everybody who lives in areas prone to floods and landslides or anything of the sorts to hastily move now to higher grounds to find refuge.
For the upcoming animators, I would like to tell you one of the things you need, patience. Kama una patience, this is something you should not even try, because for you to learn these softwares, you have to be patient. Like ukuwe ni mtu ambaye amejitolea. This is something that you're not trying. You have given yourself to do it, and then after you start, you have to give yourself to dig into the books and the tutorials. But this industry, I know one of the facts is that looking at the people ahead of us, this is an industry that pays really well. So if you're passionate about it, I know definitely doors will open in the future.
The cream de la cream of young scientists from the 47 counties in Kenya converged at the Kenyatta International Convention Center during the Young Scientist Kenya exhibition with mind-blowing projects. Most of these projects are seeking to solve Kenyan community problems.
The title of our project is Integrated Home Security System. As we have seen in the recent years, we are having issues whereby many businessmen or politicians or other people, when they are coming, as you can see, this is my structure, it is our homestead here. So when they are coming to enter into their homestead, they are being attacked, others are shot, others are kidnapped. And recently we have seen the cost of employing watchmen. It is increasing, the expenditure incurred both at home and private means. So to solve those issues, we have come with this system, whereby at first we have automatic gate system, which by when the owner just arrives at his homestead, he can just simply make a call, and then the gate will be opened automatically. Hence there will be no a chance for those, people who are fond of hijacking people to do that.
Our project, as you can see, it's about infant anti-theft detection and notification system. As in, it's a system that we've decided to come up with in order to curb infant theft. So what drove us to this idea was Sharon's and Melon's case. So they were switched at birth, so they didn't end up growing. Yeah. So this system, it has two modules, the get module and the mother module, which has an inbuilt RFI reader and a tag. So the tag is this white thing that you guys are able to see. So this tag contains the information of the infant and the mother, who are in the hospitals, in the name, the room number, the hospital, everything. So once the mother gives birth to a child is issued a card, and also the mother has the prototype of the card. So the card that belongs to the infant is normally like a wristband tied on the infant's wrist. So the card is scanned by the mother's module, and the information that is inbuilt inside the card is stored in the mother's module and also in the get module. So someone cannot leave the hospital without the card being scanned. And if the card is scanned and the gate personnel find out that the person living with the child is not the mother, then the person is apprehended and arrested. Because once the card is scanned by the gate personnel, the information is relayed back to the mother's module, signifying the mother that someone was trying to leave the hospital with that child.
The title for our project is Ocean Wave Electricity Generator, abbreviated as OEG.
Okay, I hope you're aware of the increasing ocean wave energy. And from statistics, it has been shown that it is due to global warming, which has caused the melting of ice caps and the ice sheets. This melted water is then deposited in the oceans, therefore raising the ocean water levels. And this comes with its destructive consequences like the frequent cyclones, the frequent tsunamis, and the frequent hurricanes.
And as you all know, there is an increase in the level of industrialization in our country, and we are mainly depending on three major forms of energy: the electric power, which is unreliable and inadequate due to unpredictable weather changes, and also the fossil, and also geothermal power, which causes landslide due to the extraction of fluids, the removal of fluids from underground, and also the imported fossil fuels, which are inadequate, unreliable, and also expensive, making not all the Kenyans to be able to access to it. And we were in a geography lesson on the energy unit, whereby we learn about the energy crisis that the Kenyans are currently facing, and that's why we came up with the idea of harnessing the yet unexploited energy in the waves.
This is our project. The title of our project is Multi-Purpose Tractor. This, as you see, it contains different terms. These different terms, each one contains its own function. Yeah, we have come up with the idea that we combine all the monofunctioning excavators on the way and come up with only one, which will be functioning all the functions at the same time, with only one excavator in it. Yeah, and the main idea in it is just we are using pressure to make it function. We do not require current to make it function.
We have invented an Arduino solar tracker. Of course, it's in the category of technology, and we are trying our best to ensure that we produce more electricity and more energy.
The event happens every August and seeks to provide a platform for young scientists and innovators to showcase their talents to the world.
My name is Michael Wayaki. I'm a member of the board of YSK, and we are part of the YSK 2019 team that has brought together all the 47 counties, projects from schools by various students. And really the excitement today is that last year we did 10 counties and this year we did 47 counties. And we also got to involve more of the special needs students from ASAL regions, and students who ideally would have faced a big challenge of coming here. And what we want to showcase with this year's exhibition is how these kids have amazing ideas to solve problems that we have in our society.
Make no mistake, a lot of thoughts went into this project, and indeed the results are not disappointing.